It was late morning, so people were out shopping when the missile hit the supermarket in Kostiantynivka. Russia has been attacking civilian targets ever more frequently in recent weeks. The UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission says July was the deadliest month for Ukrainian civilians since the autumn of 2022. But the Russians are especially angry this week because Ukrainian forces are now fighting inside Russia. In the last hour, Ukrainian forces released this video, which they say shows them in the town of Sudzha, which they claim to have taken. Ukrainian troops are reported to be 20 kilometers inside the Kursk region of Russia. Sudzha is a pipeline transit point for Russian gas. According to the Russians, there's also fighting several dozen kilometers from the Kurchatov nuclear plant. President Putin convened his Security Council to discuss certain aspects of the fight against terrorism. He's declared the Ukrainian incursion a federal-level emergency and is sending troops and weaponry from elsewhere in the country to Kursk. The Russian military released footage they said showed direct hits on Ukrainian armor, but it's clear they were taken by surprise, having left the border only lightly defended. Amateur video from inside Kursk shows Russian military vehicles that have apparently been destroyed by the Ukrainians, the soldiers still inside. If Ukraine were able to hold some Russian territory, that would give them bargaining power in any future negotiations, but it's a risky maneuver. For Russian civilians, it's terrifying.
Look, here it is. I was sitting over there. There are 2 bullet holes right near me. And here too.
Suddenly, the war has come to them.
The drone was hovering above us, but we braked in time. There was a girl driving in front of us and an explosion ahead. The asphalt flew and we quickly drove into a yard.
People are being evacuated to safer areas. Ukrainians might say that the Russians are getting a taste of their own medicine and might now question President Putin's war. But it means Ukrainian soldiers are not simply defending their own land, but forcing Russian civilians to flee their homes. On the other side of the border, Ukrainian emergency services removed bodies from the supermarket in Kostiantynivka. Would the sympathy of the Western world endure if we saw similar scenes inside Russia? Or might the Ukrainian incursion make it harder for NATO countries to justify arming and backing Ukraine?
Well, we're joined now from Washington by the former US ambassador to NATO, Kurt Volker. Thank you for joining us. If we can just take what each side is doing, I mean, why would Ukraine be mounting this incursion into Russia?
Well, several reasons. First off is, as your reporter just indicated, to try to raise the awareness inside Russia that this is actually a war, that Russia is fighting in Ukraine, killing people, wreaking all kinds of havoc every single day. And the Russian media, the Russian propaganda is that, oh, this is just a special military operation, it's not a war. So to actually bring it home to the Russian people a little bit more is important. Second, as was indicated, also to take some territory. Russia has been demanding that Ukraine cede territory to Russia, even territory that Russia has not currently occupied, that they want that ceded to Russia as well. This shows that that is simply not going to happen, that Ukraine is not only not going to give up territory, it can actually take some and create a bargaining position. And thirdly, I think it is a way of raising the stakes for the leadership in Russia. They have to start thinking about how this war is going to end. They've been going at it now for over 2 years, attacking Ukraine. They're not making many further gains. And this is showing that Ukraine is starting to hit back a little bit harder, whether it is this incursion or also what we've seen with a lot of strikes deeper inside Russia and strikes inside Crimea as well, an increasingly tenuous position for Russia.
Also quite revealing that Vladimir Putin calls a meeting on TV rather than being able to send in overwhelming force to repel the Ukrainian incursion. Is that because he doesn't have many troops left?
Exactly. So Russia has been, as I said, fighting intensively for over 2 years now. They are throwing everything at Ukraine that they can. So they don't have anything more that they are all capable of doing. And if they were to put more troops into that Kursk area, they would be taking them away from areas in southern and eastern Ukraine where they are defending positions there as well, positions inside Ukraine. So Russia is facing shortages of various kinds, to some degree ammunition, but even more so personnel, especially trained personnel, and having to cover a very large area from the north where Kursk is all the way to the south in Crimea.
I mean, as we get closer to the US election, how much do you think the outcome of that determines the likelihood of an end to the fighting in Ukraine?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it's going to make that big a difference. I think U.S. assistance to Ukraine is going to continue. I think that is it's something that, if it were President Harris, would probably be very similar to what we've seen under President Biden. If it were President Trump, though, I think he would actually try to ramp up support for Ukraine in order to send a signal to Putin that he's reestablishing a position of strength in the hopes that that then leads to a negotiation to end the war.